because all the tickets you sell on international routes, the monies are repatriated back to different countries. And that is our market. We can keep the funds here. We have more than about 160 frequencies per week by international airlines, by foreign airlines, coming here to feed on our market. More than 150 frequencies. There's a particular one, foreign airline, that has more than 45 frequencies per week. And you know the airline. 45 frequencies per week in the Nigerian markets. Flying from 5 different destinations, that particular foreign airline. And under all of these bilateral service agreements, we have the reciprocal rights to also service those routes. Our our flag carriers, and we have very proud flag carriers here. What is the difference between our flag carriers and these international airlines that come and feed on our market? It's very simple. It's just a capacity. It's a capacity to acquire aircraft, to acquire equipment. It's a capacity to access the same markets that these foreign airlines also access internationally. So our duty is to ensure that we empower our local airlines, our flag carriers, our very proud flag carriers, so that they can compete also on these international routes. And when these foreign airlines come here, they come here full with Nigerians, and they go back full with Nigerians. 95% of the passengers are Nigerians. Here's our market. So we have a duty to, first of all, ensure that we give this market to our local airlines. They share the market. We welcome international airlines. We do welcome them, but we have to share that market with our flag carriers here. And also ensure that we keep some of this foreign exchange that goes out every week. This foreign exchange that goes out every week. But that is why we had so many trapped funds here before we came to office. Nearly $900 million. We had the equivalent of the Naira. The Naira component was in the CBN, but we did not have the liquidity to repatriate these funds back to those countries. And because of the very excellent policy President Bola Ahmed Tinubu adopted, which is, of course, the floating of the Naira, and of course, the stoppage of subsidies, our liquidity rose. And within 6 months, we cleared a backlog of close to $900 million as a country. So today, Nigeria comes before the world, not with an aspiration alone, but with evidence of reforms and evidence of readiness. Suffice to say that across the global industry, the fundamentals remain compelling. Airbus's Global Market Forecast 2024 projects Africa, that's Airbus, projects Africa will need about 1,460 new aircraft between 2024 and 2043 to meet rising demand driven by urbanization and a growing middle class in Africa. Meanwhile, Boeing projects that Africa will require 1,205 new aircraft deliveries, with air traffic on the continent growing at about 6% annually through 2024, and thus driving a demand for about 76,000 additional aviation personnel. This is a projection by Boeing. These are signals that the center of gravity of future aviation growth is shifting towards emerging markets. And Nigeria, by scale, geography, population, and economic relevance, must be one of the principal beneficiaries. For decades, access to affordable and dependable aircraft financing has remained one of the most significant constraints for Nigerian operators. It has limited fleet renewal, constrained route development, weakened competitiveness, and increased operating costs. That is precisely why this administration has treated aircraft financing not just as a private challenge to be left to the private airlines alone, but as a national challenge. Under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFRO, we have taken deliberate steps to de-risk aviation investment in Nigeria. The most consequential of these has been the strengthening of Nigeria's implementation of the Cape Town Convention and Aircraft Protocol. Specifically, on September 12, 2024, Nigeria issued the Federal High Court Cape Town Convention and Aircraft Protocol Practice Direction 2024 to fully implement this very important treaty on aircraft leasing, thereby enhancing investor confidence in Nigeria's aviation sector. And on October 16, 2024, Nigeria went a step further by officially issuing the Irrevocable Deregistration and Export Request Authorization (IDERA) Advisory Circular, intended to improve deregistration and export remedy procedures, thus strengthening the legal framework for aircraft leasing and empowering local airlines to be able to access dry lease aircraft. It is also aimed at reducing leasing costs and improving global safety ratings. These reforms matter because capital does not simply chase opportunity, it chases bankable certainty, and Nigeria has worked to restore that certainty. Beyond the legal reforms, we have made measurable progress on the long-standing issue of trapped airline funds. For instance, IATA reported that Nigeria has cleared 98% of previously blocked airline funds by mid-2024, and later cited Nigeria as a clear example of how backlog resolution can be successfully achieved through constructive engagement and phased repatriation. In fact, that action sent an important message to global airlines, global financiers, and global investors. Nigeria understands that liquidity, convertibility, and repatriation are not side issues. They are foundational to market confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the ways by which we are unlocking capital by aligning law, regulation, financial credibility, and investor protection. It's also why this summit is timely. At this point, we must now move from reforming the framework to structuring the instruments, leases, guarantees, insurance-backed structures, export credit support, local banking participation, and development finance partnerships that can translate legal progress into actual fleet growth. Ladies and gentlemen, capital flows where confidence exists, and confidence grows where institutions are credible, rules are predictable, and reforms are sustained. This is why we have continued to deepen regulatory and institutional reforms across the aviation ecosystem. Nigeria Civil Aviation Regulations 2023 updated our regulatory framework in line with contemporary ICAO requirements across operations, safety management, airworthiness, aerodrome standards, and economic oversight. Confidence also grows when the market shows seriousness about capacity building. Under this administration, Nigeria has recorded important progress in this direction. Boeing and Cranfield University have provided training support for domestic airlines to strengthen safety culture and operational excellence in Nigeria. In addition, the ministry has supported the groundbreaking of major local MRO investments, including the Air Peace MRO facility in Lagos and the exigent $10 million MRO facility in Abuja. These are done. Thank you. These are done with clear strategic objectives. Reduce foreign maintenance dependence, cut aircraft downtime, retain value in country, and create skilled Nigerian jobs. In fact, the scale of Nigeria's aviation opportunity is perhaps best illustrated by what is now happening in Lagos. With roughly $500 million invested by the Nigerian government in modernization of Lagos International Airport infrastructure, Nigeria is making a clear statement that the gateway serving one of Africa's most important aviation markets must match the scale of its responsibility. We didn't borrow that money. Mr. President made that money available cash, and our contractors have moved to site. You'll be very proud. You'll be very proud of what you see at the Lagos airport in the next 22 months, because they have 22 months to deliver. You will be very proud of that airport. And Mr. President understands the importance of aviation and its gateway. You can imagine how we clear the backlog, how Mr. President is trying to, reform our major gateways. After Lagos, we are going to move somewhere else. And Mr. President, just to let you know, has approved the commencement of the second runway in Abuja. You are hearing it here for the first time. Because we stopped the work before because of the volatility of Nigeria, but Mr. President has approved that they go back to site, and the second runway in Abuja will be ready in no time. As a matter of fact, IATA data shows that Nigeria recorded 2.1 million international passenger departures in 2023, maintains direct links to 38 countries, supports 24 airports with scheduled commercial services, and has seen 17 new international routes added within the last 5 years. Now, these numbers we are doing, on the whole about 16 million in Nigeria as a whole, Kano, Lagos, Port Harcourt, and all that, is as a terminal point. Nigeria is still not a transit hub. And for our local flag carriers to really grow, to meet international and compete internationally, we have to make sure that our international airports are real transit hubs for them. Because there's no reason why somebody cannot buy a ticket from London, buy an airpiece ticket from London to Ghana or to Gambia. And then airpiece takes you from Gatwick or Heathrow, like they now fly, take you to Lagos, transit, and they also fly this, corridor, the West African corridor, transit, process you, and take you, to Ghana. There's no reason why they cannot do that without you having to now look for a visa to come into Nigeria first, and then rebook again and reboard airpiece. There's no reason. But we need to provide the hub, the transit hub, for them to be able to do that. We need to provide the infrastructure. Or like United seated here. United, we've granted them the route to fly the US and maybe Canada. They can also do that because United flies, the West African corridor too. So they can come properly bring passengers here or pick passengers from the West African corridor, bring them to Nigeria, process them, and fly them to Europe or America. But we need to develop the hub for them. If we do that, then the numbers will grow. The numbers of transit passengers here will grow. Most of what you see in Addis Ababa, the numbers you see there, 90% are transit passengers. They are not stopping in Addis Ababa, but they create revenue for that economy. They do create revenue for that because every passenger that passes, every airline that stops there, they pay revenue to the local economy. So we need to do that here too, because we need to take advantage of the volume of passengers we have here, the sheer size of population, the sheer size of the country, and also the geographical location. Nigeria stands in the middle of the North Pole of the world, and we're equidistant to every part of the major cities of the world. Equidistant. 6 hours to South Africa, 6 hours to Europe, 6 hours to South America, 6-7 hours, 6 hours to Dubai that would like to go so much, 6-7 hours. We're just equidistant. So we need to take advantage of our God-given geographical location. These are not ordinary statistics. They reflect market weight, connectivity relevance, and strategic importance within the African aviation landscape when viewed with the lens of Nigeria's approximately 240 million population size. When you put all of this together with ongoing airport investments at both federal and subnational levels, it demonstrates a broader national effort to deepen connectivity, expand trade-enabling infrastructure, strengthen Nigeria's gateway role, and send a stronger signal of long-term confidence to operators, financiers, and global partners. Let me be clear. Confidence in Nigeria's aviation sector is no longer aspirational. It is being institutionalized through law, through regulatory alignment, through digital reform, through infrastructural renewal, and through visible support for indigenous capacity. Capital and confidence must ultimately translate into tangible capacity. More aircraft, better connectivity, stronger local operators, more resilient airports, deeper maintenance ecosystems, and a workforce prepared for the future. This is where the scale of the opportunity becomes even clearer. Interestingly, I mentioned earlier that Boeing projects that Africa will require 1,205 new aircraft and over 70,000 additional flight personnel, which includes 23,000 pilots, 24,000 technicians, and 27,000 cabin crew over the next 20 years. For Nigeria, this means aircraft acquisition cannot be discussed in isolation. It must be integrated with local MRO capacity, training pipelines, airport efficiency, digital operations, cargo strategy, and aircraft support services. That is how we intend to capture full aviation value rather than merely importing lift capacity. You will agree with me that the opportunity before Nigeria is not theoretical, it is measurable. Globally, air cargo represents less than 1% of trade volume, but roughly 35% of trade value. In other words, aviation carries a disproportionately high share of goods that matter most in value terms. High value, time-sensitive, export-enabling goods that drive modern economies. For Nigeria, this is the real prize. It means our aviation strategy must extend beyond passenger traffic improvements to the deliberate development of cargo hubs, cold chain systems, smart border processes, and airport ecosystems that can support trade, manufacturing, agribusiness, pharmaceuticals, and digital commerce. When viewed through that lens, aviation is not just an industry to regulate. It is an economic platform to scale. It tells us that aviation is not only about passenger mobility, it's about export competitiveness, pharmaceutical logistics, perishables, e-commerce, high value manufacturing, and time-sensitive trade. It's about positioning Lagos, Abuja, Kano, Port Harcourt, and other gateways, not just as terminals, but as economic platforms. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, aircraft acquisition sits at the intersection of these three pillars of capacity, confidence, and capital, confidence, and capacity. Without modern and fuel-efficient fleets, Nigerian airlines cannot compete sustainably. Without financing certainty, they cannot scale. Without institutional confidence, global lessors and lenders will remain cautious. Without local maintenance capacity, asset productivity suffers. Without skilled people, growth cannot be sustained. This is why this summit is so critical. We are not merely discussing airplanes. We are designing a financing ecosystem. We are convening OEMs, lessors, banks, export credit institutions, insurers, regulators, and operators to move from fragmented conversation to structured transactions. We are aligning market demands with capital solutions. We are building the conditions for fleet modernization, dry lease scale-up, local MRO development, aviation workforce expansion, and stronger route economics for Nigerian carriers. In essence, we are working to close the gap between Nigeria's aviation potential and its realized aviation capacity. To our local, to our global financiers here present, lessors, OEMs, development partners, and institutional investors, let me say this with clarity. Nigeria is ready. We have strengthened our compliance architecture. We have improved creditor assurance. We have demonstrated progress on revenue repatriation. We are supporting local MRO development. We are investing in digital and institutional reforms. We are pursuing cargo modernization, And we are doing so in one of Africa's most consequential aviation markets. And we are doing so, what we seek now is partnership. Partnership that unlocks affordable aircraft financing. Partnership that supports fleet renewal and expansion. Partnership that strengthens maintenance, training, and technical capability. Partnership that helps Nigeria become not just a market for aviation, but a platform for aviation growth across Africa. Nigeria stands today at the threshold of a new aviation era, an era in which capital is more confident, institutions are more credible, and capacity is being deliberately built. Let us seize this moment together. Let us unlock the full potential of Nigeria's aviation industry. Let us build an ecosystem that is investable, competitive, sustainable, and globally relevant. And let this summit be remembered as the moment when vision met structure, reform met capital, and Nigeria's aviation future moved decisively from promise to performance. God bless you all, and thank you.